Hello. All right, second attempt here. Forgot to move the microphone. Yeah, that's all right. And I said microwave then. Anyway, yeah, today just been reading a bit of this, rereading it, I should say. Yesterday and today a bit for part of some of my studies, and yeah, it's Schiller on the aesthetic education of man. Very, very good. I highly recommend this. It's he's from what I can gather, he's mostly a novelist, and I believe he was alive at the same time as Voltaire, who's also like the novelist philosopher kind of crossover thing. I've never read any Voltaire, so I can't make any comparisons there. But yeah, I do really like this. Do really like this book, and his general argument, as you can probably gather in a way, is like the aesthetics are what is important for the education man. It is what it says. And this is because I'm kind of relating it to what I've been reading previously, and it does dovetail into it quite nicely. It's Karl Popper's like open society, closed society idea, and this whole area of like political philosophy that I'm sort of researching at the moment and reading about. So he's offering a kind of alternative perspective on things here, and that is rather than like Popper's talking about the open society being about the individual, the individual coming into existence, and this possibly giving a rise to philosophy itself as a way to um, deal with the problem of moving away from like the magical state where everything is set, the set state of nature, into the more rational world of the open society, and the individual comes into existence. In broadly speaking, along those lines. Whereas he's offering up the idea or the premise of rather than just sort of philosophy being the way forward to advance and to counter these two opposing views, is aesthetics and appreciations of beauty, which is always something that has this is more interesting to me than the whole sort of political realm, to be honest, because they've been covering sort of more moral philosophy recently and political philosophy, but the aesthetics, the more sort of woo woo wah wah weirdy kind of place, the more metaphysical aspects, the fringes of philosophy, that tends to be what interests me a lot more. So with ethics, I'm more into meta ethics myself. But yeah, and the whole thing of language and how that plays a part, and the emotional role of being, so to speak. I've got to stop saying so to speak. It's driving me mad. Anyway, yeah, and another thing I was dipping into as well, because I've only sort of been investigating this thoroughly, only the first few letters, because it's split into is it 24 letters, I believe, something like that. I can't see. Anyway, yeah, it's split into about 24 letters, and it's written to someone. Even he's just writing it in letter form, which is a really nice way of doing it. Oh, and something that I really, really love about his writing, the kind of analogies he uses, they're like spot on, they're perfect. And a lot of people get really annoyed and upset by analogies in philosophy, and I can understand this. I even recall Kant saying himself that he rarely does this, but the ones he does make, they kind of drive home the point. But yeah, Schiller, I guess because he's a novelist as well, he can conjure up a nice image to explain. And I think that is the number one rule of using an analogy in philosophical writing. You use it as a means to explain or to make clearer what it is you're talking about, not as support for your position. And I think a lot of people get confused with this use in philosophical discourse and debate, whereas someone makes some kind of analogy just to highlight roughly what they mean, And then someone uses the analogy to argue against him. So goes, no, that's not the point. That's just a way of, trying to give you a clearer picture of what I was talking about. An example of one he gives in here, which is really good, is like saying, like, if you look at, society, the state and its structure, if you see that something's wrong with it, you want to fix it. It's not like a clock. You can't stop the clock. You can't stop society from functioning. And then, like a clockmaker, then pull out the cogs, remove the cogs, put other cogs back in. It's the system is working. You can't make time stand still. And he's just using that as a most beautiful analogy, I thought. I really liked it. And he throws in a few of these here and there as well. But that one's going to stick with me. It's really nice. Yeah, but again, then people might be arguing about, oh yeah, but society's not a clock. Well, yeah, of course it's not a clock, but yeah, that is, and you do see this in science as well, actually, because when people, particularly, I guess we've all been to school and remember science class and physics about the atom, talking about the electron orbits. Again, this is an analogy to help students visualize it, and there's no orbiting anything. It's a load of nonsense. And I do remember it, to be fair, I do remember in school they sort of referred to it more as like, actually we're talking about shells. But even that, it's very unfortunate, I feel, that at the lowest level of education that they don't just give students a brief outline of how crazy the actual what we understand of the real world is. Like with like quantum foam, trying to explain that to someone. If you actually, rather than just saying quantum foam, people's like, what? But explaining what that means is it gives a whole new kind of view about everything around you. It's like, well, I always thought it was like this, and this was concrete, and this was known, and it makes the world more lived in, more real. It gives it more sort of authenticity, even though it's like what it's basically doing is pulling back the veil on our ignorance and showing like we don't know this when it comes down to it, right to the point where we're on the edge of discovery and investigation. We don't know what the hell's going on, and to me that is the most amazing thing, the most inspiring thing, I think. But for some reason, well, I can see, yeah, I'll argue against myself now saying that I can see why it makes sense that you do need to sort of instill certain rules, and say, yeah, this is like this is like this, these rules work, and they function, they're not wrong, they're correct. But I do think you should pull back the curtain every now and again and show, but there's still a lot we don't really know, and to just show the amount of ignorance and how crazy things are at the bottom of it, and how counterintuitive a lot of our assumptions about the world are. It can be maybe not at the earliest level education. Well, anyway, tying back into this, I think this is basically what Schiller is talking about. It's more about, rather than the rationality of it, it's kind of opening up this world of a universal, well, looking for a universal medium that people can operate across. And art is definitely one of those. If you think of music, you can hear music from a completely different culture, different language, not even even if they're singing or not, but you can still, people appreciate the music. There's something we can all connect to with that. The same with forms of dance. I was looking at some weird forms of dance lately with a Japanese, can't remember what it's called. I might chat about that in the future. It's just something random popped up on my YouTube, insane stuff, but it just opens up this intrigue. Oh, what's that? Go down the rabbit hole. Well, anyway, yeah, Schiller. I think there's something in Schiller. It's something I've always thought, and I was just checking out actually in because I've not read all of Popper, The Open Society and Its Enemies. He does cover something about aesthetics in there, and I've not read that bit yet because I read sort of the introduction, a couple of bits in the middle here and there, and at the end, the last sort of chapter. So I do need to, I don't really have time to read it all at the moment. So there's other things going on, but I'm definitely going to dip into that because it's relevant to relating it to Schiller. So that should be fun. Other than that, today I was reading, what's his name? I don't know how to say his name properly. Is it Byung-Cul Han. I think he's a South Korean guy. And I don't I don't much I'm very sort of tentative about this guy at the moment because he's mentioning Heidegger a lot and going into that sort of postmodernism kind of stuff. And yeah, I can sympathize with it to a degree, and it I'm kind of liking that I don't like a lot of what he's saying and disagree with it quite strongly because I like that kind of counter position to push back against. But a lot of what he seems to be very it's not really backed up with any evidence. It's just sort of mostly conjecture. But it's interesting nevertheless. It reminds me very much of Foucault, who he sort of mentions as well. So it's kind of like a lot of conjecture and stuff going on, interesting thoughts and ideas, but they're kind of he seems to just make some certain assumptions and then run along. The one I'm reading is the Burnt Out Society. I got it because it's the shortest work, so I want to have a look at that. And I'm going to buy some actual real physical books. Doing a big book buying shopping trip soon. So I'm want to read through this to see if I think there's anything in one of his more complete works. But this looks like a nice little taster to read, and it's an interesting idea. You sort of talk about stress and anxiety and depression in society and ADHD and things like this, and how this is it's quite the way he writes as well. It's convoluted. It's kind of like almost like a lot of like postmodernist writing. Like if you read Heidegger and such, it's very it errs on the side of pseudo intellectualism. I won't go as far to accuse him as that quite yet, but there's a certain pomposity to it. I mean, some of the terms he's using, there's like, what the hell does that mean? I need to look them up. Just using the Latin instead, it's like, ugh. There's no. What's an example? Let me just look. What was? Yeah, Vita Activa. Yeah, life of activity. Why not just use the English? It's kind of. I guess he's using it as in reference to other works as well who have said that kind of thing. So fair enough, as far as I know. But yeah, he doesn't seem to have This just seems a very brief piece of writing. So I'm not going to be massively over judgmental about him quite yet. But yeah, he's just sort of talking about, again, it's relating back to this whole thing with Popper, which it's really had quite a strong impact on me, like Popper's ideas and this open closed society. It's because I've never looked at political sciences before. I mean, political philosophy before. It's really got me because I never had I've always sort of thought these ideas before, and like I was referencing with the origins of religion, which interests me, and it ties into a lot of this idea. And I think with Schiller, like the whole sort of the religious scheme and what Schiller talks about with aesthetics here, I think all of this is united into one force. But religion, as we know today, is kind of manifested more in like the edifice. It's like an artificial representation of some larger universal human experience, like the collective unconsciousness kind of Jungian idea brought forth into society around the world. But anyway, I could dig into that way too much, but I won't bother now. Yeah. So that's really got me thinking. And what is his main kind of point in this? Let me try and. Yeah, again, I've not read all of this yet. I'm just trying to the burnt out society. Just he's sort of saying about we're again refers to the individual a lot as well. So it's going back to the whole sort of Popper idea. But he refers to I can't remember her name. What's her name? Someone. I'm going to butcher this name. Ardent, a very famous philosopher, and I'm not exactly sure what her points of view are, but I think she's more. I don't know if she's more sort of extreme lefty or extreme righty kind of leaning person. But anyway, I'm rambling again. That's why it's called rambling. What was I just saying? Blah 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 blah. What was I saying? It's kind of, yeah, he's kind of looking at the reversion. So with like, just to refer back to Popper's idea, it's easy to use that as an anchor to ground what I'm saying. The closed society was more like the state of nature and how we should be. Like we just accept the way things are. We don't question it. There's no rationality. Then the individual comes in the open society, and then there's a tug of war between these ideas because we want, on the one side, this is how I'm interpreting it. On the one side, we want the responsibility. I mean, we want the freedom, but with the freedom comes a responsibility. And then it's like, whoa, whoa, we don't want, this is too much, this is too much. So we're kind of, we want to be warm, but we don't want to get burnt. And we're kind of stuck, we're sort of yo-yoing back and forth between these ideas. And that's what it seems to be like now in like the humanity's state of civilization, from sedentary living, where we settle down into one place and the individual became thing, division of labor and such. But what from what I understand, what Han is saying is, from my initial reactions, what he's saying is that we've reverted into a strange kind of animalistic tendencies because of our exposure to like overstimuli, so to speak. I've got to stop saying. And but we're kind of moving into another strange epoch of human living. And I'm not sure if he's just replicating what whatever her name is, Ardence is saying, or it's his idea. But what it seems to be building on, and what I actually mentioned in the like mini essay I done the Substack thing, was, you know, beasts sort of roaming around like our cities. In cities, we're going to turn into sort of more an animalistic being, but holding on to this with sort of, he refers to it as like little sparks of egoism here and there. So we'll basically just be part of the machine. The machine is going to be like reverting back to our natural state where we don't have to question anything. We can abscond responsibility, but occasionally we've got these sparks of egoism coming through. But there's some things that doesn't quite make sense, because he's kind of, it seems to make sense on the surface, because he talks about like animal state in nature. They're always on high alert. They're always like doing everything. And so there's no room for like rational thought. Whereas what he's saying with humans is that we've become more, we've got this ability to focus more on one thing and cut out the rest of the world. Which, again, he's making this assumption, and now he's sort of saying, it seems like some kind of weird, he refers to like a negative of the negative at some point. I need to reread it again, to be honest. But he seems to be saying, like, now we've got this, we're in a state of like overstimulation. It's kind of pushing us back to this naturalistic state of being a beast in the wild, you know, eating, paying attention to what's going around, blah, blah, blah. But the strange thing about this is it doesn't really fit into the actual physiology of the, you know, so-called animalistic brain. Like an animal in the wild will not be on high alert to danger all the time. It's just not, it's not in a, it can turn on and off the flight and fight response fairly quickly, and unconsciously as well. We're aware of many things that go on. Like I think everyone's experienced this in their life at some point, where you feel uneasy about something, or you feel happy for some reason, or because something, then you realize, oh yeah, I must have noticed this on the wall when I walked in, or I must have heard this song back there. That's why I'm humming it now. It's kind of even though you're not consciously aware of this thing, you're unconscious, you're still taking in information, it's been absorbed in some way, and it can affect your conscious being. And I think possibly he might possibly be talking about things pulling, because the way the world's set up now, I think it's like there to, grab your attention. And he does talk about the another important point here, which is the achievement subject, as in we're all kind of in this world where we've got to achieve and progress, and sort of consumerism, this kind of idea. And this is where I'm like, I'm not sure. It does seem like he's trying to shoe on in a few ideas, like force them in a little bit much, but it's all interesting stuff, at least. Overly dense, a bit convoluted, the speech in there, but and again, this ties in a little bit because to the whole Schiller's idea of aestheticism, and Schiller seems to be saying that this can be the way forward for a society. This will be like a solution to progress, make things better, give more harmony without getting rid of diversity. And I'm not sure, again, because any kind of force can be used for good or bad or positive, negative, however you want to frame it. But it does seem there's something very inherent in something pleasing to the eye, bird song, whatever it may be. There's something that we can all kind of universally agree on. How this can be used, or how this can be rather revealed more in human society, and what it would do, is an interesting question. Because we do sort of, is it going to excess and luxury? Again, Hans sort of refers to that as well, a little bit, because Hans seems to be sort of throwing up this apparent opposition to excess, whereas I think the excess and then the diversity and the exploration of different aesthetics and ideas, I think it might be better. And I'm not sure. I'd be intrigued to see if this guy's actually done any kind of any substantial amount of research into cognitive neurosciences and how we actually operate in the world. I'm sure he must have, because he's throwing out some rather bizarre claims. I'll give one little example. Because yeah, I've put notes next to it. It's like, yeah, where's your proof? Where's your proof? Your evidence. Yeah, concern for the good life, which also includes life as a member of the community, is yielding more and more to the simple concern for survival. Is it? Are people more concerned with survival now than before? Where's this again? It just sort of throws out these, and then there's an interesting one here. Oh, yeah, this is the one. Yeah, broad but flat mode of attention, which is similar to the vigilance of a wild animal. Yeah, interesting thought. Where's your evidence for this? Again, it's not. It's just sort of saying things, and it's like, well, yeah, more speculation. What's this? If sleep represents the high point of bodily relaxation, does it? Deep boredom is the peak of mental relaxation. Is it? He's saying it is. If this, then this is that. And it's an interesting thought, an interesting idea to explore, but it seems again, it gets you thinking, at least, so it's good in that respect. But I don't know. I would say like meditation is, but some people sort of, he does refer to the previous chapter in that about boredom, like meditation is a bit like that. But meditation is there's different types of meditation also. The relaxation, a meditation, is it relaxation? And would you call meditation boredom? It's kind of, I don't know. Anyway, that's a long enough ramble, I think. Yeah. So I'm gonna, yeah, if you do like enjoy watching these things, then yeah, the whole like the thing and that does help. And I missed last week. I'm probably going to try and do at least one of these a week. That is going to be my main aim. Next week might be a bit difficult to do it, and check out the Substack thing because I'm going to be doing those more frequently if I can. I really would like to get like maybe 3 a week, maybe more. So I do enjoy writing. Hopefully, I'll be able to get to the point where I can do one a day, but we shall see. Anyway, that's that. And bye-bye.